stronger than a mother's love is a child's greed.
That is disgusting.
A callous caregiver chooses a vulnerable victim.
They basically used Lynne as a cash machine.
A high school senior plots against her own flesh and blood.
She missed out on the commandments. Thou shalt honor thy parents, and thou shalt not kill.
And a runaway returns with murder on her mind.
Any demon who tried to take possession of Tasha would see what's in her heart and run away screaming.
When these deadly women gaze into their mother's eyes, all they see is dollars. They want Mom's money. Peoria, Arizona, 1990. It's moving-in day. A fresh start for multiple sclerosis sufferer Lynne Carlson, her son, 20-year-old David, and his new wife.
Lynne was so thoughtful and so kind.
Oh, no. Over here.
She bought a house free and clear, and she said, come stay with me, you can help take care of me, and you'll also have a place to live.
This is gonna be good for us, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, she had serious health issues that required care.
David's wife, Doris, is 10 years his senior and the perfect person to help his ailing mom. She is a qualified caregiver.
She worked as a nursing assistant from time to time.
But now that she's living in Lynne's house, Doris doesn't see the need to work.
Looks like your checks are here.
All she does is sponge off the monthly checks from her mother-in-law's trust account.
Doris was a freeloader. She was somebody looking for the easy way out. You know, they basically used Lynne as a cash machine.
David and Doris do nothing but spend his mother's money.
Are you two thinking about getting a job? I could use some help.
Mom, I've looked, okay? There's nothing.
David would do whatever Doris wanted him to do. He certainly didn't lift a finger to help his mother.
David, I'm sure if you tried.
Hey! Stop picking on David.
Over the next 4 years, they convince Lynne to take out not one, but 2 mortgages against the house that total $94,000.
So all of a sudden, the house that used to be free and clear they were making payments on it. They took out that money and blew it on just junk stuff.
It was all about the money because the money afforded Doris to have the life she wanted, which was to do nothing.
Doris and David are supposed to care for Lynne, but they don't.
David and Dory would not do her laundry, and you know, during the night she may have an accident and soil her sheets.
David?
Nobody would come and help her.
That is disgusting.
David, please.
They didn't love her. They didn't care for her. There's nobody there for her at that point.
It must have been absolutely heartbreaking for Lynne to realize that her own son was letting her suffer.
2 years later, both mortgages are spent. So Doris finds another way to raise cash: young lodgers.
They would collect the money, never tell Lynne where that money went. They would just spend it on themselves.
Lynne's house and her lifestyle are spiraling out of control.
Oh, look at that.
Cheated.
As a caregiver, Doris must have known that the best environment for Lynne would be one that was peaceful and quiet. But that didn't mean anything to Doris. Doris wanted more money.
Lynne finally has enough. She decides to move out into an assisted care facility. And she takes her income with her.
The money stopped coming. The annuity checks went to the convalescent center and not to the house.
David and Doris are now forced to fend for themselves.
$1,600 per month, so that was gone. That was their income.
Lynne settles into her new home,
Oh, you spoil me.
receiving the attention she's lacked for so long.
She grew to really like the care facility. She got to know some of the other residents, and she really started enjoying herself.
We have visitors.
The same can't be said for David and Doris. They're drowning in debt.
They were about to lose the house. The utilities hadn't been paid. Everything was going to be shut off.
Listen, Mom, we kind of need some help.
They were definitely in dire straits.
On a rare visit to Lynne, Doris demands even more money.
We need $6 grand. Now.
Well,
She says, I'm going to talk to the financial advisor.
I'll talk to my advisor, and I'll let you know.
After years of being bilked for her money,
You'll get back to us.
Lynne's trying to get tough.
You should be looking after your son, you mean old cow.
Is everything okay in here?
But Doris isn't the kind of girl to take no for an answer.
When someone is generous to a psychopath, the only thing they can expect is trouble.
Peoria, Arizona, 1996. Doris Carlson is consumed by a deep yearning for her mother-in-law's money.
She just wanted to obtain the riches without having to work for anything.
If her mother-in-law dies, Doris and her husband, David, can claim their inheritance. But it might take years for Lynne to die of natural causes.
That's when she really decided that she was going to kill Lynne.
Doris decides to outsource the job. She turns to one of her lodgers, 20-year-old Dan McCreakin.
You want to make some money?
Doris says to Dan, how about if I give you $20,000 to go kill Lynne?
Oh, you're joking, right?
No.
And Dan thinks about it for a while and says, okay.
17-year-old roommate, Scott Smith, volunteers too.
They agreed that they would split the money.
In the early hours of October 25th, 1996, Doris sets her get-rich-quick scheme in motion.
Okay.
She planned every aspect. She bought the knives, she bought the gloves, she drove them to the assisted living complex. Everything.
They use a key that Dory had given them to get in. The plan is to make it look like a burglary.
I can just see her sitting in that car, just waiting for the money to roll in, waiting for Lynne to get killed.
But inside, there are second thoughts about doing Doris's dirty work.
Dan goes in there. He's like, I don't want to do this.
I don't think I can do this. Just hurry up and do it!
And then Scott says, come on, let's get this done. So Dan starts stabbing Lynne in the chest.
Dan stabs Lynne 10 times before fleeing in a panic.
Just drop it, man, drop it!
They run out, they don't take the TV, they give up on this thing about it being a burglary. Doris says,
Well?
is it done? And
Yeah, it's done.
one of the boys says, yeah, we took care of it.
But they haven't. Lynne is still alive.
Later on that morning, one of the employees at the care home went by to check on her. They found Lynne in there, conscious.
This is sort of a case of dumb, dumber, and dumbest. I mean, that's really what it is. Doris wasn't the brightest bulb in the chandelier, and these two guys helping her weren't either.
The next morning, as police investigate the crime, there's an unexpected visitor, Lynne's son, David.
And everybody kind of looked around and thought, well, why are you here now? You know, you never come to visit her.
Detective Bill Lang still remembers David's reaction to hearing of the attack on his mother.
He didn't become upset or emotional in any way. All he said was, how is she and can she talk?
Can she talk?
No less than 4 times
Can she talk?
did he ask me, can she talk?
Just come this way, sir.
Everyone is waiting for Lynne to speak, but she's too ill.
At that point, we were kind of at a stalemate. We had a lot of suspicions, but we had absolutely nothing to work on.
Doris thinks her secret is safe. Until 3 days later.
When so many people are involved in such a horrible crime, eventually, someone's going to talk.
Get a call from an individual who says he's a friend of basically everybody at the house. During one of his visits, they admitted to the attack.
The informant agrees to take part in a sting.
What have you been doing? What happened?
In this particular case, what we did is we bugged his car.
It was great. Just went in and got out. Left no fingerprints. The cops have gotten nothing.
The 4 are arrested. As prosecutors develop their case, Lynne loses her battle for life.
The last 6 months of Lynne's life were horrible. Her wounds never healed. It was a gradual spiraling down to death.
Charges are amended from attempted murder to murder. Daniel McCreakin is found guilty of first-degree murder, receiving a life sentence. 17-year-old Scott Smith gets 10 years in prison for second-degree murder.
If they hadn't come across Doris, they probably would have gone on to maybe simple, not maybe great, but certainly not murderous lives.
David Carlson is convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and receives life.
Who lets their wife kill their mother? David.
In July 1999, Doris Carlson is found guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and first-degree burglary. She is sentenced to death, later reduced to life in prison.
It's all money. Basically, that's all it was, is it was just for money.
Kind and generous to a fault, Lynne Carlson's only sin was to live too long.
Who kills a defenseless, wheelchair-bound woman? Who's supporting you? Doris Carlson does. That's who.
Some girls
She could have had her choice of a lot of guys.
seem too good to be true,
Pretty, smart.
especially when you're a dropout.
A guy who's wasting his life playing video games.
But love works in strange ways.
It really wasn't a fair fight. He never saw her coming.
Burbank, California, 1995. High school senior Amber Bray has the world at her feet.
Amber Bray was a bright, 18-year-old young woman who was pretty, smart.
Okay, settle down, class. Back in your seats.
She was very devoted churchgoer, and she had done very well at school.
Nice work, Amber. Thanks.
This is a young teenager who could have a very good life for herself.
Then, Amber crosses paths with 21-year-old Jeffrey Ayers.
Dude, you suck at this game.
He's just kind of a doofus. A guy who's wasting his life playing video games when he could be going to school, when he could be making something of himself.
So you go to school around here?
Yeah.
Yeah?
No one understands why ambitious Amber wants to date loser Jeffrey. But the pair form an unlikely bond.
Wait, how old are you?
How old do you think I am?
18 or 19?
Jeffrey never wanted a long-term girlfriend before he met her, but he fell, and he fell hard.
Dixie Hollier's office.
Amber's mom, record company executive Dixie Hollier, starts getting calls.
Hello, Dixie speaking.
Her straight-A daughter is skipping class.
So all week.
The only symptom we had that something was wrong was that Amber began to miss school.
Thank you, I understand, thank you.
She missed it to the point that she got into trouble for truancy.
Everything okay?
No, not really.
I'll look into that now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Dixie is a divorcee raising 3 kids. She worries her eldest daughter is throwing away her future.
Amber had a stormy relationship with her mother. Typical daughter, mother, teenage hormones battling each other.
I said, excuse me. Where have you been?
At school.
You have not been at school because the school phoned me and you haven't been there for days.
Amber's 15-year-old sister, Amy, is often caught in the crossfire.
Stop yelling!
A lot of mothers and daughters start having problems when their daughter's 13, 14, 15, and then generally they grow back together.
I don't care, or I should care.
That didn't happen in this case. Amber hated her mother.
And Amber makes sure her boyfriend hates her mom, too.
What's the matter?
She would portray herself as this poor wretch who was abused by her mother.
I don't think I can do this anymore.
There's no evidence of abuse, but Jeffrey buys her story.
You're a young man, and all at once you have this beautiful young woman showing this great interest in you. Pretty soon, you get suckered into the story about how mean Mommy is to her.
Then Amber tells him she can't take it anymore.
If you don't do something about my mom, I think I'm gonna kill myself.
Hey,
Well, Jeffrey couldn't let that happen.
I'll do anything for you, okay? Anything that's gonna make you happy, I'll do it for you, okay?
You promise?
I promise.
It was just a way, along with her good looks and her sob story, to basically bait the hook more for Jeff Ayers.
The reason for Amber's inexplicable bond with a high school dropout is about to become clear.
Almost everybody who plans a murder writes it down. In the process of creation, everything starts as a thought, and then it becomes word, and then it becomes deed.
When she met Jeffrey, she saw someone she could control and manipulate to get exactly what she wanted him to do.
In Burbank, California, 1996. A teenage tryst is getting serious fast.
So, I made a list.
Jeffrey and Amber had only known each other a few months, but they were already talking about getting married.
So I've invited 100 people.
Amber, Bray, and Jeffrey Ayers draw up a guest list. But two names are conspicuously absent.
It turns out Amber's mother and younger sister, Amy, were not on the invitation list.
What does that tell you?
Amber convinces Jeff that in order for their new lives to begin, other lives must end.
I think Amber did a great job of basically manipulating Mr. Ayers.
We're gonna have like a big house, right?
Romance him, seduce him, and say, we can live happily ever after. You just have to do one thing.
In handwritten notes to her lover, Amber reveals just what that task is.
There was a series of communications about killing the mother, thereafter buying a house with the mother's money. They thought with Dixie's money, retirement savings, they'd live happily ever after.
All of these notes passing between them for months means that they had been giving a lot of thought to this murder. They programmed everything. What they hadn't counted on was that the plans would go terribly wrong.
Before dawn on January 16th, 1996, Amber lets Jeffrey into her mom's Burbank home.
I think he was probably very nervous.
Jeffrey had emotions about it. Amber didn't.
Jeffrey's only experience at killing is in video games.
He had the gun. I believe his plan was to shoot the mother twice in the head. He was not able to inflict a fatal injury.
Unlike the video games, where a single gunshot wound causes somebody to collapse and die, a bullet has to actually penetrate the skull and go into the deep brain structures in order to cause immediate unconsciousness. The bullet may have simply grazed her head,
Dixie didn't go down easily. She crawled out of her bedroom.
When the gunshots didn't kill her off, Mr. Ayers then ran into the kitchen and he grabbed a bunch of butcher knives, stabbed her so severely, as I recall, the handles on one or more of the knives actually broke off.
The noise disturbs Amber's 15-year-old sister.
She grabs the phone and starts to call 911.
At that point, Amber pulled the telephone cord out from the wall and blocked Amy from calling 911.
What Amy doesn't realize is that when Mom's dead, she's next.
Amber Bray had solicited Jeff Ayers to kill her mother and also to kill her younger sister, Amy Bray. She was going to be killed as part of the deal.
But that's not Amy's fate.
Burbank police received a call from a neighbor who had heard some shots fired, and the patrol officers got there very, very quickly.
Her sister Amy was lucky the police arrived when they did.
Mr. Ayers was caught literally red-handed with Dixie's blood on his hands.
On the ground! It's too late for hard-working single mom of 3, Dixie Hollier.
24 stab wounds, plus 2 gunshot wounds to the head, tells me this is overkill. Tells me that there was rage and anger present.
Amber's reaction to her mother's death is suspiciously cold.
She feigned some crocodile tears, but I think it became obvious to the police very quickly that any feelings of sorrow were just acting on her part.
When the police uncover Amber's incriminating notes, she and Jeffrey Ayers are arrested. Both are found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder for financial gain. They are sentenced to life without parole.
It was Amber's emotional immaturity that caused this murder. She had no thought for anyone except herself.
Apparently, Amber was a deeply religious person, but she missed out on the 2 commandments: thou shalt honor thy parents, and thou shalt not kill.
There was no proof that Dixie Lee Hollier was anything other than a loving mom.
The lady was a nice, hardworking lady. We never found any evidence whatsoever of any abuse by her towards Amber, other than, you know, telling her to do chores and, you know, do her homework and that kind of thing.
Do you have an emergency there?
She said there's been a horrible accident.
What does it take for a mother to abandon her child?
She's like, well, if I didn't know any better, I think they're trying to kill me.
One family discovers the awful truth.
Starts with G and ends with R-E-E-D.
It just sucks the breath out of you.
In California's Central Valley, 1988, 15-year-old Tashia Stewart is becoming a troubled teen.
The things that she got in trouble for as a young child was always for lying. You know, if she broke a glass, it was somebody else's fault. Something else happened. She didn't do it.
Mom Judy is loved by everyone.
What? Dinner's nearly ready.
She was a wonderful lady.
Except Tashia.
Tashia basically referred to her mom by a bunch of rotating expletives.
I told you, I'm going out. And just what part of no, you're not going out, don't you understand?
You're not my mom. You can't tell me what to do.
Tashia begins sneaking out at night.
It was nonstop.
Come out, talk to us, honey.
I literally cannot count the number of times that we had to report her as a runaway.
I don't know what to do.
During this whole process, she told us that we're not her real parents. I said, you're right, we're not.
Honey!
15 years earlier, in 1973,
God, she's beautiful.
Tashia is born to Judy's twin sister, Jody. But Jody's not cut out to be a mom.
Jody had a very checkered past. She was actually a prostitute. She had some psychological issues,
You gotta take her.
so it was difficult for her.
There's no room in my world for a baby. You know that.
So Tasha's mom gives up her child to Judy and her then husband, Rolf.
I was absolutely elated. Yeah, it was a great day for me.
Not many kids who are born to a prostitute who can't care for them get that lucky in life. Tashia did.
In her late teens, Tashia moves out to make her own way in the world.
I don't think anything could have made Tashia happy. A happy, warm, loving family for Tashia didn't mean a thing.
You're the best.
But the adopted daughter doesn't cut ties entirely.
She would always come back because she needed something. She needed a place to stay. She needed money. She needed some form of support.
By 2011, in Pasco, Washington, Tasha's back on Judy's doorstep again, broke and in debt.
I'm on for home.
This time with husband Todd in tow and her 7-year-old daughter.
First door on the right. I have missed you so much. Hello.
Judy told them that if they wanted to, they could move in with her to kind of get back on their feet.
I swear you've grown.
Best of all, Judy gets to see more of her granddaughter.
Would you like some milk and cookies?
She was the center of Judy's life. She knew how much Judy loved her.
Okay, let's go get her.
But Tashia isn't so easy to get along with. Soon, there's tension.
Judy had allowed them to use a debit card to get money out of the bank or to buy things at the store.
Did you take $300 from my account?
Well, she had found that there was some money missing that shouldn't have been missing.
You have stolen.
So many people that knew Judy saw her as a loving, giving mother. But Tashia apparently didn't see any of that or didn't care.
What are you gonna do about it, woman?
What she cared about was Mom's money.
But Judy lets Tashia stay for the sake of her granddaughter.
She thought if she could just have her close, there would be some possible hope that she would be able to be raised in a normal fashion.
Okay, Nick, come on.
Judy doesn't realize that by trying to keep her granddaughter safe, she's putting herself in harm's way.
Her mother would have given her anything because of that little girl.
And that was a fatal mistake.
In 2011, Pasco, Washington. While Tashia Stewart is moving boxes into the garage of her adoptive mom, Judy, there's a terrible accident.
Judy.
Judy was out in the garage, and this large box of books fell on her and almost broke her neck.
Judy is okay, but the incident raises questions.
That it would fall off at that precise moment that she just happened to be moving on the floor in the garage, that seemed a little bit too much to be just a coincidence.
Judy tells a neighbor she thinks it was no accident.
I don't know how that box fell.
She's like, well, if I didn't know any better, I think she's trying to kill me.
And Judy has a hunch about why Tasha might want her dead. Money.
In Judy's first will, she left everything to Tasha.
To protect herself, Judy changes her will, leaving Tasha only $10,000. She secures it in a safe in the bedroom.
Tasha needed to get in that safe and remove that will.
To get inside the safe, Tasha first needs the access code.
She's making a video of trying to capture the combination to that safe in the closet.
It works. Along with the will, Tasha finds something else belonging to her mother.
It was a .357 pistol revolver.
On March 3rd, 2011, Tasha tells her daughter to leave the house.
Sweetie, I need you to go into the garage and not come out until I come and get you, okay? Okay.
One of the neighbors that lives directly across the street, he hears 2 gunshots, and he said there's about a 4-second delay, and then the 3rd shot.
Ma'am, open up.
Police race to the scene.
She came at me with an axe.
Tasha comes to the door, and she says, I had to shoot her. She was coming at me with an axe.
Inside, it's gruesome. Judy lays dead with 3 bullet wounds and her head cleaved by an axe.
She said that that injury had happened while they were struggling with the axe.
She admitted that she shot her mother, but she claimed that it was in self-defense.
Cops quickly expose the self-defense story for what it is, a lie.
Our medical examiner evaluated the injury, and he evaluated the flow of the blood from the head. It showed that she was not standing up. She was probably already deceased. So the question really becomes is, what was the need for any kind of self-defense at that point in time?
Piece by piece, the police expose what really happened the day Judy died. They surmise it began with Tasha threatening her mom.
Judy Hebert believed that she was in danger. She started to initiate a phone call.
But Judy doesn't get a chance to report her problem.
911 emergency.
The first shot, they believe, went through her hand, and entered the side of her chest, ricocheted off of her rib cage and her sternum, and went directly through her aorta.
It's a fatal wound. Tashia then stages the crime as self-defense.
She took this cheap axe that Todd had and hit Judy across the back of the head with it.
Tashia is arrested. First, she is tried for attempted murder for the incident involving the box of books.
The jury made a fairly quick decision, and they realized, hey, this was with premeditation. And they found her guilty of the attempted act in the garage.
Then in July 2013, Tashia Stewart is found guilty of first-degree murder. She receives 45 years.
Tashia was really not bright enough to pull off this crime. She didn't know that most wills, there's a copy somewhere in a lawyer's office.
Judy had always put her daughter first. But her love was never reciprocated.
No good deed goes unpunished. And ultimately, Judy paid for her kind heart.
Oftentimes we see the killer trying to hire someone else to do the dirty work. Tashia was up close and personal while murdering her mother.
If there is such a thing as demonic possession, any demon who tried to take possession of Tashia would see what's in her heart and run away screaming.
These deadly women repaid motherly kindness with blood. Doris Carlson brutally betrayed the woman she was supposed to care for. Bray exploited her loser lover for evil means. And teen runaway Tashia Stewart came back one last time to kill. They were all consumed by a desire for Mom's money. Even in prison, David and Doris never get their hands on Mom's money.
Once the trust company found out that he was implicated in the murder, they completely severed ties and the money went to somebody else.
Some people are involved in a murder and they feel terrible about what they did. They're riddled with guilt and shame. They can't live with themselves. They spend the rest of their life trying to make up for it. Amber's not one of those people.
When questioned by the police, Amber claims to know nothing about the plot to murder her mother. But the facts tell another story.
Well, Amber originally feigned innocence, and they interviewed her, but then the documentary evidence that they found plus interviewing the younger sister, Amy, how Amber had blocked her from calling 911, you know, quickly resolved that issue and pointed to her guilt.
Including her unlikely but easily influenced lover, Jeffrey.
I always wondered if her plan was to have him do the dirty deed, and then afterwards, had it been successful, if she would have dumped him.
Hello?
She called her dad, and she says, hey, I need the combination for the safe.
I need the combination to the safe.
Why would you need that?
And she was pretty excited. And he's like going, Tasha, what are you talking about?
A box of books fell on Mom, and
It's got a do not resuscitate order, it's got the living will, and Mom said everything in the safe is mine if something happens to her. He's like, well, what happened to Mom?
Now she's 15. Tasha says she wants to reconnect to her past.
She says, well, I want to see my real mom. And I said, no problem.
What'd you get up to today? Nothing.
But the reunion doesn't last long.
The day after that, in the morning, Jody called and said Tasha stole $1,000 from her and ran away. We got to the point where the only thing she brought us was pain and agony, and we didn't want it in our life.
No one can contain the wild child. And when Tasha grows up, a string of boyfriends come and go, including ex-fiancé John Coffey.
Tasha didn't think her way through anything. She pretty much emoted her way through every situation.
And I look back on it now, and I feel that Tasha never bonded, has never bonded with another living soul.
To Tasha, her daughter is nothing more than a pawn in her wicked game.
If you withheld help or support to Tasha, you knew that you weren't going to see the granddaughter for a while. She used her like a club over everybody's head. She was nothing more than a tool.
Tasha used her own daughter, Judy and Rolf's granddaughter, whom they loved, as a weapon.
Investigators look into Tasha's past and the unexplained accident Judy suffered just 2 weeks earlier.
Judy.
Oddly, a tote full of books mysteriously fell right on Judy. What are the odds of that happening? 0.